Good evening. I would like to call Property Management Committee to order. First order on the agenda is approval of minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good. Report on renovation of old judicial building.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I met with the PBA at the last PBA that they had last week, I guess. They are willing to accept. I think after we left here at the last property management meeting was to see if PBA be willing to take the renovating of the judicial building strictly for IT, and that was all that was requested. Coming back to the committee now, they are willing to accept that, Gary Preston, and then so if approval is, what was the word you used, Commissioner?
Value engineering?
Valued engineering was the word they accepted to value engineer the process to see how much room is actually needed in the old judicial building. So I guess back here for approval, then we'll go to budget and then on to the full commission. And that's all this committee was charged me to do, is to meet with PBA, and they have now accepted that position.
Any discussion? No discussion?
I just need to hear, no.
No discussion. I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
Motion to move forward with the project.
Got a motion?
I believe that.
Motion, I'm sorry, I have, may I, Paul?
Sure.
Go ahead. Move forward with the project is your motion?
Yeah, yes. With the mayor's recommendation.
Okay.
Yes.
I just need to clarify the motion, because we're not moving forward with the project, we're moving forward with
IT renovation.
some
Yeah.
PBA direction. on
Right.
renovation.
Yeah. I think we should include in that motion IT renovation. Be specific when we move on to budget. That'll alleviate a lot of questions. Got a second from Trey.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, what they'll do now that they take control, they'll value engineer. They'll come back before this committee once they have figured out square footage, what it's going to take, because they've got to start talking to Brian and before on the old plan, it was just they were going to get 2 whole floors with conference room, 2 conference rooms on each floor. Just didn't make sense to allow them that much lactation rooms on the floors as well. So I'm sure they'll come back before this committee before it goes forward for any monetary dollars assigned to it.
This basically is just giving them the authority to go ahead and proceed.
And start
and come back
negotiating with
us
the
to
architect
us.
and et cetera. Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Is everybody clear on it?
Just so the minutes have
You want me to read the motion?
acknowledged that we want the PBA's recommendations back to us before budget.
Okay. You want to read that motion aloud so everybody?
Move forward with the PBA work on value engineering for the OIT renovation at the old judicial building with a report back to property management.
Thank you.
Agree with that, Trey? Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So when do you expect a report back from the next meeting?
Next meeting. Yes, sir.
Next meeting.
Yeah, it'll be next meeting.
All right, next on the agenda, new site location for county clerk's office.
Mr. Chairman, before we get into that, I've noticed we've got a large contingency of our judges here. Thank you all for coming tonight, but there's nothing on the agenda tonight for the new judicial building. So if y'all just want to stay with us and enjoy the rest of the calendar, but we won't be talking about anything we talked about today at lunch.
We were.
Or you all just
we
want to
were
make a
told-
statement?
We were told once there might be something,
Okay.
so we either contacted us, and if there's nothing gonna come up on it,
No, y'all are
That's okay.
free to go home, because we're not going to discuss that tonight. I'm not sure who told you it would be discussed, but it didn't come from my office.
What were you anticipating? Or were you?
well, I'd rather just let the issues come up and see. So there's different things being considered, and with the new judicial building, I'm sure people are gonna ask our opinion. You're the ones that get to decide. We understand how this works.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
I'd say it's a little premature.
We definitely want your input.
Well, thank you, madam. We appreciate that.
We definitely want to give our input on that.
No
Thank you,
comment.
Mr. Mayor.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
We're good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
But
Perfectly welcome to stay the rest of the night.
I'm getting ready to say they could stay and
Yeah.
listen, you're
It
making.
is a mighty fine company.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be long.
It should be.
Okay, members, talking about new site location for the county clerk's office. Okay, so let me just give some historical information so you can get into the follow with me as everything has developed since the last time we met. Okay, so at the December meeting, I don't believe I was here, but it was Commissioner Dodd's suggestion, why don't we look at the Lane Agra. Okay, so we looked at, I got back in town, Deputy Mayor Sandlin briefed me, and I said, I think there may be a restrictive covenant on that deed, with a deed restriction, because when I was on the commission, when we bought that property, it wasn't a gift. Some people said it was a gift from Mr. Lane. We paid about $2.3 million for that piece of property. But the family put a deed restriction on there that nothing could be built on that site for 50 years unless it was ag-related, okay? So I just picked up the phone and I called Steve Lane. Steve and I went to high school together. He lives down in Punta Gorda, Florida, south of Tampa. And he said, no, Bill, he said, that was not our intent. Back in 2002, when the county commission, Mrs. Allen was the county mayor at that time, approached us about releasing that covenant that was on the deed as a deed restriction when the county commission wanted to build the Paws building. Our intent, this was Steve's word, it was our intent at that time to release that property and remove that restrictive covenant. My dad was still alive, Catherine, his mother, was still alive, and of course Tom Jr. Is still alive. And our intent was to remove it. So I think that you all should be able to do whatever you want to do with the property. I said, okay, what leaves that? But just to be on the safe side, we had Josh pull a copy of the deed. The information came back, and the way we read it, it was only for Paws. It didn't release that covenant. So at that point in time, I picked up the phone out of courtesy and was going to call and set up a meeting with the Conservation Board, just to let them know that what we were thinking about doing is putting Ms. Kroll's office out there along with the Department of Safety, the DMV, at that location. Well, the first person I called was the chairman, who's now coming off this next month, and actually said that y'all don't need to do that, we'll sue, etc. So I said, well, I'm acting at the direction of the commission. So I called Steve back. Steve said, well, I think you calmed the waters, because it became a firestorm. I mean, all over the county, that we were going to tear the buildings down, we were going to fill in the pond, we were going to tear down the grapevines. I mean, it just got totally out of hand of people stirring the stick. And of course, at the last full commission meeting, you remember Mr. Vaught came and spoke. Mr. Mike Vaught came and spoke on behalf of the Farm Bureau, not to do anything for that property. Last week, Lisa was in our office with Mr. Sandlin, when Steve Lane called me and he said, well, I think you calmed the waters. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're talking to my brother and mentioned that you might be able to get the commission to name the building after mom and dad. And he said, I think we're okay. Go ahead and send us the stuff. I had Josh prepare a resolution to send to them to release the covenant. I called him day before yesterday and he said, it's off. I said, that's all I need to know, you know. We'll move forward. We'll pivot from here and we'll go look for another location. What I was trying to do, by your suggestion, is save the county taxpayer somewhere between $1.5 million and $2 million. That's what is on the market out there. Anything in the Blackman area that's zoned appropriate for us to put this type of facility in, and that $1.5 million, $2 million could be saved on free property. We put it into the building, especially with the Department of Safety willing to pay rent just to provide the space on a long-term basis. So we have free property, we build a building and get the state to pay for 2/3 of the property. But I told Steve, I said, no hard feelings, come by next time you're in town and we'll go have lunch. But you know, we'll move forward. We'll look for another space. In the meantime, I get a call from Mr. Spurlock. Mr. Spurlock, I'll pass these out, called me and suggested that they had a site if we're interested. So this is our plan B that we're presenting to you tonight. I said, I'm not taking that to the committee tomorrow night until you poll your board. He texted me last night and told me that he had polled his board and they're all in agreement with this and willing to give us this property located off Fortress Boulevard adjacent to Blackman Elementary School. I responded by saying, I hope it's free because I'm not paying for it twice. We've already bought it once, you know, in your budget when we built Blackman, okay? He said, you're correct. He said, we'll carve you out of that track anywhere from 3 to 5 acres, whatever's needed. So I'm not asking for any action on this tonight. We've turned it over to Michael and Doug. They're looking at it. They've got to negotiate with the city to see what the zoning is, to see what the curb cuts would be, because there is a concern. If you see right there coming off of Fortress, there's a drive for which it comes right up to the school. Probably want to see that. Yeah. There's a drive that comes up, and sometimes, Paul, I don't know if you've been out there or not, but sometimes the parents picking up their kids, it might stack out onto. You got the maps? Can you pull that up?
Yes, sir.
We don't know about drainage. We don't know about anything, but the city and the county are working to get us the information. So I'm just putting this on the table as our option B, and we'll come back with something better next month, more definitive. This may not work. If not, then we may have a plan C available. And we didn't find out about that until today.
So we've looked into the property. Like Mayor Ketchum was saying, they have about 3 to 4 acres that they could allow the county to build on. They need to reserve the remaining 10 to 11 acres for a future school expansion. There is sewer available just off-site to the east. We would have to get an easement through the Blackman Farms HOA and probably extend the sewer about 900 feet to the building site. There is a 36-inch water line, CED water line on Fortress, and then an 8-inch looping Blackman Elementary. We could tie onto that. There is a small amount of flood zone to the east, but the property that we're looking at would be well outside of that, and wouldn't be an issue with us.
There's a small creek that runs down there.
That's Puckett Creek, yes, Puckett Creek that back there. The topography is about 1 to 3% sloping across the land, so it's not that bad of a grade that we'd have to deal with. There is a ditch along the side and a existing tree row, and Doug can speak more about the buffering that we would have to do. We talked with the city. This is all is in with the city limits. We would have to go through their site plan approval and their zoning approval. We would not have to subdivide the property. It could still stay one piece of property, which would help with not having internal setback lines to deal with. Like the mayor was saying, this is a queue line for morning drop-offs, where parents would line up. It's a double line of cars, so we would have a challenge of only like 160 feet to work with right here, unless we move the entrance farther up and maybe do some kind of loop to allow the stacking in here. We could get maybe 300, 350 feet of usable space in here for maybe a couple entrances. But along with this stacking, when we talked with Trey Lee with the school board, parents do stack up along Fortress Boulevard in the morning. So that's something else we'll have to contend with and see if we can
Drop off and pick up.
Yes,
So
yes, sir.
twice a day.
Yes, sir. Twice a day. So that'll be a hiccup we'll have to overcome. Let's see. Fortress is a 5-lane road with a center turn lane, which is it's classified as a major collector. Let's see. I believe I've covered everything.
Did you bring up the flood map again?
Yes, sir. The hatched area is the floodway. We can't do anything in that. The blue area is the 100-year floodplain, and this brownish is the 500-year. The city, like the county, we regulate to the 100-year floodplain. So if anyone were to build in this area, they have to build up the property above that flood zone. So
Well, I guess my question was, would that eliminate a new school expansion there, or you could still expand if they built the property?
yes, sir. Right. They'll just have to. It's just they have to bring the ground up a little bit to allow the building to be safe.
And they don't foresee, Mr. Mayor, any future use for this 3 acres, just the...
No, they
As far as-
voluntarily called and said,
Okay.
are you still looking for property? And I said, we're always looking for property, especially if it's free. And so that's when he sent me this.
And he polled the school board.
He polled the school board, wasn't last night, it was the night before. If you want to see my text, I'll be happy to show you that.
Okay, no. Didn't want to step on anyone's toes.
No.
Doug has some information about the zoning. We talked with the city about that. He can fill you in on that.
Yes, the property is all, as Mike said a little earlier, it's all in the city limits. It's zoned RS-15, residential single family, minimum lot size 15,000 square feet. That's pretty much equal to what we would call RM in the county. This type of facility was not allowed by right, but would have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for what they call a special use permit, same thing we would call a special exception. It's a public building, basically, and we asked him about the same thing as far as not just the clerk's office, but also for the DMV and everything to go along with that. So that would just, it wouldn't be a rezoning, but just a conditional, well, it's all kind of the same as how you call it, special use permit, special exception, same type process. As Mike was saying, we pulled the deed for this property. The deed is in the county's name. We did have our legal staff look at that as well, because there was some question about whether or not we needed to subdivide it. But since it's all in Rutherford County, their opinion was that it would stay the way it is. No further subdivision would be needed. When we talked with the city planning folks, they did talk about that tree line, existing tree line between that and the planned development right to the south. They said they'd like to be able to maintain as much of that tree line as possible. That could be used as part of the buffering requirements. They would probably recommend under the city as a type C buffer. I think that's kind of like their middle of the road type buffer that they would require. But that's something obviously we would look at during site plan review if this were to get that far and get through the BZA process and everything.
What's your orange line in that?
That's a contour line, an index line of 590.
Yeah. Like
It's just an elevation line.
Yeah, every 10
Okay.
feet, they're different color like that, just to stand out.
Right. And talking with the city, if we planned a stormwater detention pond together with the school expansion, we could build one pond on their 10 to 11 acres and satisfy our stormwater needs. So that would be a bonus too, to kind of plan those together.
Now, it was my understanding at one time that when we bought land for the school, when the county bought land, it was in our name until they built the school on it, and then we deed it to them. We don't deed it to them anymore?
County.
Okay. So it would still be ours.
Well, in the tax roll, it does say Rutherford County, but it has their address to it. I mean, but it's still Rutherford County property.
Essentially, the county owns the land, the schools kind of run the school, I guess, so to speak. They kind of manage it in a sense, but the county still actually maintains ownership as a whole.
Sounds good to me. Of course, now Smyrna's in a flood area. The office out there is in a flood area.
Where it's just outside of it. I was the design engineer for that.
Part of it's in a flood area.
Oh, yeah, a lot of that old
I
airport
think
property
parking
is, yes, ma'am.
places, some of it's in flood.
Yes, ma'am. But we had to make sure that that building was built up as well.
Doug, you did say that in your conversation that you included the building for the highway patrol.
Yes, sir.
And all this.
Yes.
Conversation with the city.
Yes, sir, we did. And yeah, they would be the same process through the whole thing. But now, being that it's in the city, of course, it's going to have to also abide by their design standards as far as the building appearance and those kind of things. But yes, to answer your question, yes, we included everything.
Is the state still on board if it's there?
Yeah, matter of fact, I reached out to, used to be Sheriff Long, now he's Commissioner Long as of Saturday, he was sworn in. And he's still on board. I think in that transition, David Perkey, outgoing commissioner, shared with him, with now Commissioner Long, that this should be one of his top 5 priorities because they've been so overcrowded for such a long period of time out there on Middle Tennessee Boulevard that this would give them ample room for years to come. So they'll occupy 2/3 of the building. Ms. Kroll had requested 2, I guess enough for stacking to where she can have 2 drive-throughs. Is that correct? It is going to be needed. And then inside of that also would be, in her office, just like Smyrna, Ted Beatty would have access, have a small window where people would pay their taxes. This whole area, just on the other side of the interstate, it's over 40,000 people now, and still continuing to grow. Highway 96 is like another city on the other side of the interstate.
It's relatively close to the Fortress and Manson interchange, and also.
And when Ms. Kroll and I and Steve were looking for property, that's what we were running into. Everything was, $1.5 million, $2 million. And, it was all commercial, retail, and, that's just, we understand her needs, but I'm trying to get it for free.
I like this concept. I just hope I don't want us to drag our feet on traffic. I know how especially DMV traffic is.
Well,
parents working out.
Well, that's a real good point, and I want to continue to look at that. I'm going to go out there and just sit and watch and see what the traffic looks like myself, because if I think that it was a hornet's nest over at Lane Agra, if you start blocking parents trying to pick up their kids or drop their kids off, it's going to be worse.
Or block Lisa's clients as well. That would be tough.
Sure.
I think that's one of our biggest issues, is that traffic.
Sure.
But, yeah, I like the concept.
Even though it's twice a day, it's still, you know, they start stacking up an hour before school lets out at 2 o'clock.
That's when a lot of people need to get to the office too. They're gonna be coming
Yeah,
after they drop kids or before, after they pick them up. It could be a conflict.
sure.
Of course, it could be a scheduling too, hours of operation and everything, you know, it
Sure.
kind of alleviates some of that.
Sure.
Most of the, from my experience, most of the traffic that I've seen out there has been on Blaze, the afternoon picking up.
Correct.
And coming around through there, but.
Sure.
Of course, I'm not out in the morning going
Well,
through there.
I think right past, let's see, this road right over here to the far left is the one-way in going to pick up the backside of Blackman Middle.
Oh, yeah.
But that will be the main problem to address,
Sure.
They do.
egress and ingress.
Yes, sir. They do have a traffic guard, a crossing
Right.
guard here at this location for both the middle school and the elementary school.
And I know the operation of the, I don't know what our hours are, but the state, I think they're 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. is their operation. What's yours?
My hours of operation is 8 to 4 Monday through Thursday and 8 to 5 on Friday.
So maybe you can monitor the plan and bring back a recommendation at the next meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How's it, Lisa, are you sitting okay with this thus far?
Yes,
Seems
so
like
far. Yeah, the parking is a concern, but I'm sure that will be taken care of.
Yeah,
You know, with the DMV and the motor vehicle department.
Right.
Those are two high traffic and offices but I'm sure that you all will take care of that.
Right. I think we're supposed to have, what was it, one for every 250 square feet?
4 per 1,000 square
Yeah.
feet is
So
what
it's like
the conditions were.
Higher than some other uses? I mean,
Yes. It's kind
That
of like a
will be-
retail.
Yes,
It's like
yeah, retail in the city, as I recall, is about 1 to 300 square feet. This is 1 to 250, that's what they're looking at. So, but, I mean, that's just a minimum. You know, we can always, if we think we need more, we can just put more in, you know, or recommend more to get put in.
I think it's good for the clients, again, Agri Park was probably a little bit too far east. I mean, I'm kind of glad it continued to be pushing somewhat to the west. It doesn't hurt us to move a little bit west and south. So there's a lot of good reasons to.
So you will bring us back a report next month?
Yes, sir, I will.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
Are we looking at any other properties in the meantime, or are we just going to look at this for a month and then
Well,
start over if nothing?
yeah, we're still looking, but, and there may be a possible Plan C.
Yeah.
And it just came before us today, and I'm not at liberty to say anything at this point.
Well, the way we sort of describe the properties that we're looking at, it's like Plan A with ag, plain ag. Plan B is this one. We got a Plan C in the works. And it may be a Plan D, but that's the way we're just.
We'll keep looking, but the main emphasis is free.
Yeah. That's the main word we're using on the property.
Okay.
Chair, what exactly was our motion on this in December that we voted on?
Okay, hold on.
To approve the concept of a 13,500 square foot building at the Agri Park on John Rice to accommodate the county clerk's office and potentially the Department of Safety, and forward the same to the Budget Committee and PBA for due diligence and consideration of the project.
I would like just to kind of clean things up, make a motion to rescind the part about the Agri Park location. As far as the concept, keep that in there, but as far as just to rescind the I guess, the Plan A part as far as the Agri Park.
It's just rescind Plan A completely.
Yes.
Okay. Got a
I'd like to
motion?
make that motion.
Okay, motion to rescind Plan A completely. Do I have a second? We have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Anything else?
Thanks, John.
On, okay. Next on the agenda.
I have something.
Okay.
I prepared something just, so anyway, it's fairly nice and I want to share it with you.
Okay, come on.
Um,
You like the guy left out?
Well, and if you just want to pass it out, it just helps you understand the need
Your flow.
of what we're needing. So it just gives everybody a clear understanding of what our need is and why we need it. Is that right, Robert? Are we going to?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So I worked with OIT and they put that together, so I needed to make sure that it was handed out and everyone could see it.
Basically, we know the need of that. No doubt about that.
Someone asked me the question there, Mayor, and of course, this building, I don't think would be anywhere near what needed to be done. Who owns the building where the emission testing is done? Does the county own that building there? Of course, that's down way
Emission
down.
testing? No, sir. We don't own that building.
I thought the company that was doing the
Yeah,
emission testing,
yeah.
that's what I told the person.
They're contracted.
I thought I'd find out for sure, but that would be a.
That's a small lot.
Would be a-
I think.
The traffic would be horrific there.
Traffic is a nightmare now.
Like it is, yeah.
Can't get out.
Yeah, traffic is
When
definitely.
you pass along that
You better
information.
go with the flow when you pull out. If you try to turn left, man,
You can't go. Sometimes it's so bad, I just go to Smyrna and get it done.
Take your lunch with you if you want to go.
Does this include, does your number of employees include Smyrna?
Yes,
That's your entire, how many people are at Smyrna?
I have 11.
Would this new one be similar to that? Potentially another 11 employees?
Yes, I would need to phase that in. I don't think I would start out at 11. I would like to phase it in instead of try to hit it so hard at one time. But I really feel like it'll become a busy office quickly
yeah.
because of the location, the demand of what we have going on out there with the car dealerships. As many deals that we do for the car dealerships, I really think it'll take off quickly. But to say I need to do hire 11 new staff people right off, I don't know that that would be my need at the very beginning. Maybe 9, maybe even 8, and then see how that workflow goes. Because I would like to. When I start thinking about staffing a whole office, I can't have an office with all new staff. So I've thought about I would need to pull some from Smyrna, some from the Murfreesboro office, and then hire new, and then have new in both of the other locations as well, so that I still have the knowledge that I would need at a new location that I currently have at the other two.
Trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the demand for the Smyrna office may have decreased where you wouldn't have to have 11 people up there. The more demand for this new office over here because of the convenience of it and the location of it. So, you know.
I would like to think that.
Well, you know.
But with projections that I've got from the Chamber of Commerce on our expected growth, I'm way behind at this point. And so with the expected growth, with the new location, I think it'll help offset and help with the future as we go forward and our population grows.
But you would agree that there's nothing constantly change, correct?
I'm sorry?
There's nothing constant but change, correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay. Any more questions on the new site? Any more questions for Lisa? If not, next on the agenda, signage at 319 North Maple Street parking lot update.
Mr. Sandlin, you got an update on that?
Basically, I don't.
Mr.
Terry Preston is actually got it on his agenda and looking into that and giving us a engineering plan of attack on this. So it's in his hands, as well as the city of Murfreesboro. I might have mentioned it last month that their traffic engineer is also looking at the city streets surrounding 319, and so they're going to give us a report there whether we need to close one down or ride in or ride out or anything like that. So, but we have no feedback yet on this, but we did want to report that we had no report. So, wanted to stay on top of it and let you know what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you for the non-report.
Thank you, that we know you're still working on it.
A good report.
Yeah. Next on the agenda, exterior improvements to historic courthouse. And this is a project I think we need to move quickly on.
Yes, sir. It will be what I'm getting ready to share with the membership is
do that much.
exterior and interior. Ben, if you want to come on up, and Lisa. All right, you just wait. All right, all right, we'll call on you.
We're talking money. You need to
we'll call on you. We'll call on you in just a moment. So everybody take a copy of this. This is the exterior improvements to the courthouse, including interior. Okay, but before we get into that, let me share with you, this coming Saturday, we're starting the landscaping process. So they'll be out here. It's the company that's contracted through the city of Murfreesboro, okay? In our line item, we pay the city to pay for the lights, part of the lights, down at the parking garage, as well as cleaning out the parking garage by the library, because we don't have a library, okay? And then also in that line item in our budget is to pay for all the landscaping. They plant the flowers up here, they come up and blow the leaves off and do whatever needs to be done. They cut the grass, what grass is left, cut the mud as it is right now. But so don't freak out when you start getting phone calls that they're coming in with chainsaws this coming Saturday, and the plan is to leave the 4 star magnolias, the large trees on each corner. But the big hollies that have overtaken the building and growing into the windows are going to be taken out. And then through this process, I think we still have enough money in the line item that the city will just bill us. The total project is going to come in around $37,000, which is already approved in the 18-19 budget. Okay, and the city will just bill us and we'll pay for that. And they'll come in, irrigate, put in irrigation. They're going to put in sodding. They will put in new plants of what they tear out, mulch it, etc., and start making the grounds look good and acceptable again. So moving forward, of what you have in front of you is the plan that was talked about last year and maybe even the year before. I don't know how long you've been talking about it, for some time, Chairman. A couple of years of trying to do some things that have been kind of neglected and pushed down the road. This was one of the unfinished loose ends that Mayor Burgess passed along to me, and I think we're prepared to move forward. We've identified funding. That's where we'll call on Lisa in a minute to share with you where we're going to pull the funding in this year's budget. We have the money to do it. But I'm going to let Ben kind of run through this of things we need to do. If any of you have been down here when it's raining, you'll notice our lake out here where the pavers have kind of concaved and sunk, and we get a lake out there and there's no way to get around it. So everybody kind of walks tiptoes in the mud to get around the lake. And so those need to be removed. We need to put new downspouts, copper downspouts on the courthouse. We need to come in and tuck the brick. We haven't tucked the brick in 20 years.
2001, I think, was when last time we painted.
Yeah, we painted it to look like brick, the same color, where the two, our brick was different on the two extensions, right?
Right, the wings
and
are...
the two wings were different colors, so we painted them to look the same color as the original brick on the main courthouse. Ben wants to paint the exterior. Our columns are, we want to make sure that we maintain those. Some of them are even bondoed, but we want to keep a good coat of paint on them. It's been a long time since we've done that. Why don't you just run through, Ben, and share with the members everything on this list that we're going to be doing.
Okay, so on the west side, we've got a I guess a belly or a sag in the sewer line, and so we've got to fix that. And I think the city's agreed that they're going to put us a manhole.
Just got permission today from the city that they're going to put the manhole in for us because Ben had asked us to reach out to them, and they came back and told us early this morning. City manager said, we'll put the manhole in. You just run, I think there's a whole clay pipe, right?
That's correct.
Service line.
Service line?
Clay.
Yeah. So I haven't had time to tell you that, Michael, but they're prepared to put that manhole in. Go ahead.
In the process of that, it's going under those pavers on the other side anyway. And so they've got some uneven surfaces. And so we're going to try to put something that's going to drain a little better on that side. And then we need to repaint especially the windows and the columns. The cupola was painted in 2014, and so it's painted with an epoxy, and I think it actually looks pretty good, and so just cleaning that I think that'll take care of that. And then let's see, we've got a few cracks over here on the south side. It's got a few cracks in the brick. And I've got some ideas of how to draw that back together and remud that, and then up on around the parapet wall up around the top, it's got some cracks in it. So we've got to fix those before that brick on the old part of the building is really soft and pretty delicate. So we don't need to take any chances with getting a lot of moisture behind that. The lighting, kind of a hodgepodge of lighting ideas out there, and so I think they're going to design some LEDs around lighting around the courthouse that should really set it off. Let's see. Can't think of anything outside. Just the pavers, mainly to try to set those pavers up and make those drain real well. So the gutters, when we redo the gutters, we're going to direct those out to the street and let it run down to the storm drain. Help save the landscaping and the mulch. Right now, it's routed underground, and so where that stopped up, all we could do was just cut a hole in the side of the gutters or the downspouts to let that water out, and so it's kind of washed a little bit of it keeps whatever mulch they put out, it keeps it kind of washed out into the street. So I'm going to take care of that.
You'll see on that last piece of paper, bid number 2, which is other our doors, our windows, things that need to be done. The carpet, I know, Mr. Chairman, you've been concerned about the carpet, and Mr. Burgess, before he left, he said I just can't bring myself to pay $360 a square yard for carpet. And of course, this carpet that's out there was loomed in London or somewhere in Britain. It's all wool, and it's historic. But I believe Mr. Klein's mother, who was the original,
she spec'd it,
working for Klein Sweeney. She's found a mill outlet in Georgia that can replicate the same design. Instead of being made out of wool, made out of polyester, but it's gonna look the same.
That's right.
For probably, I don't know what her carpet would cost, but
Normal,
at
a normal price of
what
rug.
you and I would buy to put in our house, I guess, but nowhere close to $360 a yard. You know, that's just, I think that as long as we keep the look, and if it wears out faster, then it's still, we're saving money. You know?
Actually, it shouldn't wear out as fast as the wool.
Really?
does. Yeah, that's.
Well, if you notice going down the steps,
Yeah,
you've
that's
seen the
the part.
threads right there.
Well, at the elevator,
Safety hazard.
Yeah,
elevator too.
yeah, it's kind of worn out
It is.
as well.
Well, I've worked with it $1,400 a yard, so.
Have you?
It
Wow.
cuts just like some of the rest of it does.
Yeah, that's just because where it's made, right? Well,
Gold cuts.
if you have questions for Lisa, she can tell you, Ms. Nolan, what line item we have money set aside.
Right. And I will say that we've already met our estimate for development tax for the current year. But what we have in reserve for restricted for capital projects is $2,150,000. So that would be a source that you could use to.
And that's what the money was set aside for, right? Is
It's for
for
capital
capital projects, and that would fall into this category. But, you know, the courthouse is a thing of beauty. It's something that we all are prideful for. We want to make sure that she's protected for long past our lifetime. It's been here over 150 years, and we want to make sure it continues to stay that way. I think in talking with several of the businesses around the square, they're kind of excited just about seeing a live Christmas tree and some sod and et cetera. But to make it the gym that we all want it to be, we're going to have to spend a little bit of money, and I think we have extra money, and I think we need to do this, but I would like to go ahead and get this passed through the full commission so we can get the green light, because I don't want to get into the summer before farmers market starts showing up and jazz around the square and wine and around the square, all those events that we allow around the square. We want to have it all done and out of the way, because it's going to be tore up for about 4 or 5 months, I would assume, especially that's going to be a deep line going out to that manhole that we'll have to put in for the sewer, so it's going to be a lot of dirt, a lot of mud.
So the completion estimate is July 22nd, and that's if we started last week with the dumpster proceed. So we're not going to we're going to be working during farmers market. Am I correct?
Hopefully they'll have the ground sewed up by then, and you know it'll be just the painting and the.
Is Kathleen aware? Is the
Yeah, we shared that with.
Main Street Inc. aware of our?
Yeah, I met with them yesterday and kind of shared this preliminarily with them and told Kathleen, Brian, and Shanto, he's president this year of Main Street, and they're willing to make that sacrifice as well. But the Main Street, and we told them, because we're going to have turf, you know, or actually have sod out there, we don't want everybody laying on it, so they have agreed to move the stage for just on Friday nights or whatever it is out into the street because of onto the asphalt, because the square is already blocked off anyway, so they didn't have a problem. They thought probably moving it out there would give them more room. Ben also wants to be able, while we're doing this, is to put in proper electrical outlets and et cetera for those stage performances to hook up to. Let's get it right the first time and move forward.
Did you say at one time there were some events that messed up some areas or something? Certain events, and we were going to, you reached out to some of those event promoters to see if they would rope a section, so we spend this kind of money, I want to make sure we take care of it.
Yeah, we're going to push them out of the more of the inner loop to the outer loop, especially when everybody brings their lawn chairs and blankets and everything else. We'd like to keep them off, you know, we can't have 24-hour policemen down there, but, you know, and I don't want dogs urinating on our new Christmas tree either.
Ben, does those columns still have the
Bullet holes.
Uh-huh.
Bullet holes.
Yeah, and the cannonball dents in them.
That was back when I was a contractor, sandblasted all that down.
Maggie, they, when we, the last time we painted them, they used a chemical stripper on it. And there's Bondo, I guess, to fill in all those voids and stuff. And there's places that we speculate could have been, we just don't know for sure. We think that they're, we found a place over on the east side that was rounded out like it potentially could have been a
I was just thinking
cannonball.
if they still showed up, it would be nice if we could put a little plaque there, because we have a lot of visitors and they want to know about these things.
We're just not sure. We would
Well,
have to
but
kind of make it up, you know, if we did.
You can say, we think.
It looks like where Cannonball hit it.
I can make it up.
We dug up a cannonball out at Community Care when we was doing some work out there. We dug up one.
We did find, the last time we painted, we found a bullet over on the west side, and that's John Lodell's got that down at Archives that was just laying up behind one of those capitals up there.
But I thought if there was anything that we could put out where the tourists could see that
Sure.
or see some of it, because we're not always here to give them a guided tour.
Well, I agree with Commissioner, and when people stop at the chamber and they want to see things, the three things they say, go to Stones River Battlefield, Historic Courthouse, and Oakland's Mansion. You know, Smyrna, you go to Sam Davis.
I don't know that they ever determined anything, because remember when I sandblasted, MTSU came out and several others, and they actually shut me down for like a week while they studied that hole, so I don't know if they ever determined it.
It's just kind of speculation, and I'd be scared to say that was what happened.
Still put a sign up there with an arrow on.
Any more questions?
Well, we're not painting the brick, it's just the columns, the cupola, and then the windows.
The brick on the wings, that's all painted to match the original brick on the
But we're not repainting the brick.
We might have to paint some of it.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but some of it, where we've got some cracks, they're gonna have to replace some stuff, and so they'll probably end up having to touch that up. Just, it kind of depends on how faded, I guess, how faded it is.
Okay, any more discussion? Right, I think we need a motion so we can move this on forward to the budget and get it to the full commission by next meeting. That your plan, Matt?
Yes, sir.
There's an old saying that to dress for success. And I said this time and time again, we're not a Mickey Mouse County anymore. And we want to be successful in drawing industry in. We need to look successful. And we need to be impressive. So I'm very conservative. But sometimes you have to spend money to make money and to draw attention to yourself. So, Becky, I'm not too good at making motions according to what I did a while ago. So, I would recommend that this be moved forward.
Approve the work as presented and forward to the Budget Committee and Commission.
Sounds like
I
what he
believe
said.
that's what I had
That's
in
what he
mind.
said.
It's a mouthful, got a second by Commissioner Cook. Any more discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Montague?
Yes. Okay. Is there any other business to come to the meeting?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to build on Mayor's comments and the judges. I know the judges have taken a lot of time to come out and see us, and I may be so bold as to assume the topic may be probation,
That's
moving
correct.
into judicial and/or city court. So I just wanted to be appropriate to say that we will not take any action on this. We just want to make sure this doesn't go too far down the road.
Sure.
And that we get full input on these topics.
Yes. Just like the Lang Agri Center, maybe some of you didn't get called. I got called constantly, even the thought of bringing it up. But you know, it didn't bother me per se, but you got to realize this is a committee, and all kind of ideas are coming out of this committee on things to do. You know, but that doesn't mean it's the final say so. All that information is gathered and brought back to this committee. We go through it, we pan it out, and we send the best we think forward. So it doesn't bother me with these new ideas or whatever that's coming into. That's where it's supposed to be, right here in this committee. Don't wait until we get up on the full commission floor and then all of a sudden you got an idea that we hadn't had time or chance to look at. So I think that's great, you know. And on the new judicial building and all the other spaces, we're gonna have input all the time on different things that we should do. But do not, commissioners, especially, I had a couple, just wore me out, a couple of commissioners, you know, knowing that the committee process is where you bring all this up at. You know, it wasn't finalized, it was just brought up. So don't let this be something that we're not going to bring up information on. We'll bring up information on new commission, new judicial building and everything else, but it doesn't bother us to bring it up. But just tell them that we do not have the final say so. As long as they know that, then we should be okay.
Can we make sure that we can inform the judges when we're going to be bringing this up?
Oh, most definitely.
I don't know who to contact, but I want to make sure that they get
they'll be on the agenda. Yeah.
Well, let me say something, Mr. Chairman. My office, I take the direction from the committee, as did to look at the Lane Agra. And I think that we did our due diligence on that, right. And we followed the process. If both Mr. Lanes would have come back and said, yeah, we're full steam ahead, we don't really care what everybody is saying, we're giving you the release, that would have come back to you probably tonight to make that decision. If you wanted to bend to public opinion and not do it, that's what the committee structure is for. However, there were a lot of, and some of our own members never once bothered to pick up the phone and call me. We're dealing with different projects. People are calling, information is flooding in on every different project, be it the judges or be it Lane Agra. Please pick up the phone and call, and we will share with you everything that we know up to that point. We're just still gathering data up until the time we get ready to walk in and present this. We didn't make these copies until just a few minutes ago. But we're trying to get out in front of the growth. We're doing everything we can. We're not sitting down there just, you know, collecting a paycheck. Okay, we're trying to get in front of the growth, and it's coming faster and faster. And now we're starting our budget process. And so anything that you have, any questions, I'll call you back anytime. I'm texting at night with Mr. Spurlock at 12 o'clock at night, saying, yeah, I polled everybody tonight. We're good to go. Yeah, so please don't hesitate to call me, and instead of just trying to, because it's your opinion, to kill whatever, you don't like it because you heard from so-and-so, I'll be truthful with you, because that's what I'm planning on bringing to the committee. Okay? So
I appreciate the constituents calling me because they have ideas that I don't come up with.
Exactly.
And can be brought to the committee. They're welcome to come and sit in the audience. Absolutely. Too.
Well, we need to be as transparent as possible because it's not our money. You know, we're dealing with other people's money and we're just going through the process. So I went over at the request of Judge Taylor. I figured it was good to reach out to him and go and explain to them, because before it gets totally out of hand, right. You know, that we're not tearing the building down, we need to build, okay? That's what happened with Lane Agra. You know, I'm trying to provide as much information to everybody so they can make an educated decision on how we spend the money.
As long as we can continue to operate the committees on the premise that none of us is as smart as all of us.
That's correct.
And we'll listen.
That's correct. Yeah, I agree.
How'd you hear that?
One other comment, just it's been suggested, does Lisa need any temporary help in your parking? lots, like any kind of an attendant on a temporary basis? Do you need some, just some certain mornings or afternoons, certain days of the month? Would you need some traffic control? Is it worthy of a top conversation coming in again next month?
Yes, it is worthy. I've said out loud that until a solution is put in place, where, you know, a quick help would be if there was an attendant in that lot from, let's say, 7:30 in the morning to 10:30 or 11, because that is when our parking lot is flooded with people that are going across the street, not utilizing our services at 319, they're going across the street. The signs that are posted says that that's what the use is for there, and that others will be towed. But that's not happening. And I don't want anybody towed. I don't want to put any financial burden on anyone. However, if there was an attendant standing there where they cross the street to let them know, if you parked in this parking lot, this is what may happen. They will go back and move their vehicle, I would think.
Is that 5 days a week?
Most of the time.
It varies. One of the things, we don't have access to the docket, so it's hard. It really depends on the court dockets as to, you know, what days our parking lot is flooded. One of the biggest concerns is not just the inconvenience, it's the safety. People are parking on the curbs. People are parking where, you know, on both sides of the curb, and you're trying to drive through, well, you can't see then. Somebody eventually is going to get hit in that parking lot. And it's out of control on some days. And then we are seeing an increase of things like panhandlers now in the parking lot that are pecking on windows, that, again, safety hazard in a lot of ways.
Let's not get too far afoot. You know, if it's, now you're talking 40 hours a week.
Right.
I'm not prepared to go there,
No.
especially not being on the agenda. That would be unfair to the committee, if I may be so bold. But on this specific issue, is it worth spending a few minutes on, is there a need for somebody from the Sheriff's Department to do a walkthrough? And if you would prefer to put it on next month's agenda, I fully understand.
Well,
Let's do it next month.
we can put that on next month's agenda with this added information. Like I say, I'm constantly getting calls, which doesn't bother me. It's not only their department, but the health department now has a problem. The health department, what the people are doing, they're parking in the front and taking up all their parking in the front to go over to the courthouse. So therefore, the people coming to the health department are forced maybe to park in the back, but in the back it's reserved for the employees. So we got a mess on that too.
So we could put on the agenda for next month a
complete look at that
temporary
traffic.
attendant. Sorry.
Yeah, we need to put that on next month's agenda.
I hate to interrupt, but I'm hoping that we have, Mr. President, this has actually been 60 days that he's had this. So, you know, in the last conversations with him, you know, they're working on a plan. And what I had told this committee, as well as the two elected officials in that building, and actually our property assessor too, that we could gone out to the highway department and made a sign that said don't park, but that's not going to work. You know, we could spend money and put an arm down and employees park here, you know, and that might not work. So that's what we left it to the traffic engineer, so to speak, to this is how many spaces we have, this is how many employees we have. Do we make the employees park in the building that they're working in? You know, we've had everything in the world told to us about how many employees are parking over into the parking garage, how many Pinnacle Bank are parking in the parking garage, how many Miltis Electric's parking in the parking garage, and then leaves very little room then for the judicial parking garage for people going to the judicial building. So it's a mess. You know, why the engineering group didn't figure this out when they built the parking garage and built the judicial building and had a plan here, I have no idea, but I wasn't here. And some of y'all weren't here. They didn't. So we're having to make lemonade out of lemons that we've got right now. And so, and I'm sorry if I misspoke last month or something with Jerry Preston and figuring out a plan, because I'm not a traffic engineer. But we can put up some signs, but we didn't feel like that would be the...
Already signed. We already have signed.
Yeah, and they're not paying any attention to it.
What,
So,
what
I wonder
I'm,
how much.
this is the first I've heard from.
Yeah, but what
the
I'm
two
looking at
officials here on getting somebody from traffic or hiring a part-time person to,
that's what
I
I'm,
guess, go to speak to them and talk to them when you get out of your car and cross the road or whatever, but
I'm a person, personally feel like Commissioner Dodd, we need to look at an attendant to be there, to sort of have control over the parking garage, parking at your facility, the health department, to look at everything in that area, because we're getting so much traffic in one spot. I just don't want anything to happen, because you've heard of road rage. You've heard of all that, and I hate to see something jump off between two people fighting over parking spots and all that good stuff.
Already happened.
Yeah, it already happened, see what I mean?
Already happened.
So we need, and sign's not gonna help
No.
that.
Yeah, just
How many parking spaces do we need for
Employees.
the county? We got the new building, and it's not adequate. How many more spaces do we need?
I think initially when they planned the parking garage, it had an extra 2 stories on it, and I think that might have helped us somewhat. I'm not sure. There was always a shortage of parking downtown anyway. People were using parking in our lot before the new judicial building came in, but not to this extent. There's another thing that I've noticed that's different. The people that that would utilize our services are generally in and out. People are going to court, and mama's sitting in the car for 2 hours while they're in court. So they're holding a space for 2 hours where one of Lisa's customers would have been, 10 people would have used that spot in the same 2 hours. It's a different traffic pattern because they're in court for longer extended periods of time. And then, I guess in desperation, the people that are there to get their car tags are coming in, all the spaces are taken, and people are sitting in the car. Well, they're sitting there thinking that person's about to back out. So now they're blocking the traffic, waiting for somebody who's not moving to move, and then the person behind them's honking, and then you can just see the tension rising.
Yeah.
Then you got people that are late for court, and they're desperate, and they're speeding through there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a disaster.
It is. I had a commissioner 2 weeks ago. Was it? Well, he spent over 18 minutes circling the parking lot at 319 looking for a parking place. And when he thought that we were going to be lined out the door because of the parking. And he comes into the county clerk's office. From the time he walked in till the time he was finished was 3.5 minutes. He spent 18 minutes circling the parking to spend 3.5 minutes taking care of his business. That's, to put it in perspective, that's what it is.
I've given Jerry Preston the numbers of parking spaces down there, and he was looking at that as well, as far as the one way in, one way out type thing. I think, and I don't have that number with me, I think it's like 125 or somewhat spots and 69 employees, so it left you about 50 or so spots, 50, 55 spots or something, I think somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
That's if everybody was there, all the employees there, and they park, in an area, which we don't have just an area for employee parking. We don't. We've never had that there at 319.
If the committee do not mind, I may ask public safety, ask the sheriff or somebody to be at the next meeting. I think they need to be included in this discussion. Because the sheriff's department have security at the new judicial building. And so they may have some ideas and they may work along with us to resolve this problem. But I think it's at the point, really, like they talk about, it's pretty bad out there now. And I don't want to see anybody get hurt or something over parking. But I think we need to include the sheriff's department in this discussion next month.
Public safety.
First Monday, this Monday, it's public safety.
Coming Monday.
What if we get on their agenda rather than they, the other way around? Can we get on their agenda, perhaps?
Well, we could meet
Do
there.
it, have it some
Chairman
temporary.
can call.
I can go there and talk about it on the other business. When they ask for other business, I can get up.
We hadn't sent the agenda out.
Oh, you hadn't?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll get together with you in the morning.
4:30 Monday. 5:30 Monday.
Mayor, I think there was some dialogue previously about expanding the new judicial building.
Yes, sir.
And the parking
Yes, sir.
lots with the city, et cetera.
And that's part of the other puzzles that we're still negotiating with the city. We're trying to, they're reaching out to us, we're reaching out to them. They have expressed a need to move their city court over into our judicial building, new judicial building on Mr. Sellers, Ewing Sellers. They said that they're willing to build that out, you know, so they would get credit towards their monthly rent at tune of $600,000-700,000 for the improvements and betterments, and build it out to our specs in the event that we decide at some point in time to move them out. You know, it's another courtroom finished out for us. But I told them that if we consider that, then you have to work with us, and you'll have to share the cost of adding 2 more floors onto that parking garage. Well, if of course it's different times, okay, they've got a different city manager, but if you recall, the last commission, for those that were here, went not once, not twice, but 3 times and asked the city if they would participate. All 3 times they were told, no, we don't want to participate. That would have cost $2 million at that time when we built those per level, $2 million. We've just gotten price in from Bell Construction estimated to put 2 more stories. It's $3 million. Now it's gone up that much.
$1.5 million per store, per floor?
Yes, sir. That's their estimation. They said it would take 90 days.
$3 million.
Per floor?
Per floor.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you said $3 million total.
No, $3 million total.
$3 million per floor.
You
Per
heard it
floor.
right, didn't you?
So, but $3 million to us because they want to pay half. Okay,
How much is it?
$6 million. We pay half. They pay half.
$6 million.
It's $3 million per floor.
How many,
Total.
how many spots, parking spots?
120 something on each, so it's going to take it up to about 250.
About 250 per floor?
No, total for the 2
Total 2
floors.
floors.
125,
Yeah.
125.
Well, you got 2 floors, and that's what the structure, the bones of the of that were built to do. But then you've got the parking on top again, so it's actually 3 levels. Is that correct?
So,
Penny wise and pound foolish, they missed their opportunity.
They missed the opportunity, but now they're coming back with a different administration, different city manager, and look at things different, and they're willing to put that up. We talked to Bell Construction Company. The panels, they say, can be erected within 90 days because they're precast, just like on the judicial building. The brick are already attached to it, but they'll have to put in a large crane, which will block that road for 90 days.
So,
And then we get into, are we going to charge? That's a whole other issue, you know. When you charge for parking, the city is, Rutherford County's right on that cusp. And then that became an issue in talking with the judges today. Do we even charge? Do we wait till after we add the 2 layers on before we start charging? You know, a lot of people come to court, they can't afford parking. But people in Nashville, it doesn't matter, you pay. These are all issues that we need to bring about. So if you do pay, how do you do it? You put in an arm, you put in a token, you put, you know, these are all issues that have got to be addressed. We even told them to hold off on putting any signs up because if we're going to put a crane up there, we don't want to ruin the new signs we just paid for, okay? Trying to look at all the variables of how to address the traffic, but it's here. The city's wanting to start charging traffic over at the United Methodist facility, you know, where Franklin Synergy just moved out of. When they put in that boutique hotel or whatever it is, maybe Rutherford County or Murfreesboro is now to the point to start charging. These are all issues that have got to be discussed, and then we'll come back to this committee. You know, so it's going to be busy for us to address all these issues. But I'm going to put out all the scenarios to make the right decision.
So
Could we get a list of, maybe for our next meeting, of the county properties that the county owns?
Sure.
For, you know, in the event that we have a brilliant idea that we might dispose of some of the property or liquidate some of the
Well, believe it or not, the city's doing that right now in their reorganization. They found a $2 million piece of property down next to Bunny Bread that they didn't realize they owned. So they're going to sell that and use the $2 million to help pay towards the parking garage in their court. That's what they told us last week. I said, you didn't know you had that piece of property?
We got 37 acres over there by Laverne Middle School, not middle school, well, it is middle school and the primary school over there. It's nothing but rock. That's all there is.
I think we're headed in the right direction because I've shared with school board members as well that as we continue to build schools, we need to be looking at those same sites of property to put ambulance and fire stations on those same pieces of property where the schools are, instead of going out and buying a whole nother tract of land and put an ambulance or whatever. So I think the proper planning, we need to be smart about it, you know, and utilize every piece of property because farms are disappearing. We're having to compete with developers, as you know, Commissioner, paying $40,000 an acre just like the developers are, and who gets there first.
What comes to my mind is where the old jail was.
Yes, sir.
It's been leveled and it looks so nice. I can just see a high rise there that would be bringing in some money to the county.
Well, you know, Chancellor Wilson told us today in the meeting that he's sold the building where Trey is located. He sold it yesterday to a company out of California, and they're really wanting, our lease runs out in June of 20 for probation, but the company out of California is really wanting the land underneath because there's a vacant lot right next to it, and looking at the footprint, some type of condo or something that they're interested in. So it's coming.
It's coming. So
coming fast.
Just food for thought.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We'll get you a list. Write that down.
Yeah, well, we did have a list of that about county properties, but it's been some time since we updated. That would be a good idea. Also, so based on what I'm hearing from this committee, I will go to public safety and discuss the parking issues that we're having over there. So maybe they can come up with some type of security to help us out until we get some of these projects done.
Monday, this Monday, the 28th, is
Yes.
both.
Yep.
5:30.
I'm not sure that's right.
You're not sure that's right? Well, hold on, we're gonna let Becky look it up.
I looked on the calendar.
It is, okay,
Yeah, it's on.
it is the 28th.
I think 29th we have purchasing.
Okay, any other business to discuss tonight? I think Trey said he wanted a quick meeting, but.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right.